Guys, Dave Norona, and I'm down here at No Limits Motorsports here in Squamish, BC. And number one, I want to thank Skidoo and also No Limits for getting the 2026 sleds out and about. They've been out for a while as far as riding and testing and stuff, but we have some here that actually people will be able to try and ride and see the differences. So first, I'm going to go over the Summit X. This is 2026. It's available in 3 colors. So there's the timeless black, which we have here. There's this really sweet gray with red accents. And then in a turbo version only is kind of like, I call it the British racing green. It looks really, really sick. And as always, it's hard to tell with colors, but they really do look good on snow. So starting off here with the Summit X. Now it's really important to always remember, right? We have the Summit X with Expert package, and the Free Ride. And those sleds are always stacked together evenly, but it's really the type of riding that you like to do that's going to dictate which sled that you're going to get. So here we have the Summit X, and the biggest changes for this year, I'm going to go through them. Starting with the front here, is we have a forged aluminum upper A-arm. So this is about half a pound lighter, and it looks super sick. I think they did an awesome job with this. Same ski stance on the Summit X. You can run it at 36 or 35 in the center and 34 in the narrow position. And then as we move back to the machine, some of the biggest changes are towards the back here. And so now in the tunnel, you get actually a shorter version of the tunnel. So in the 154 version, it's 45 millimeters shorter. In the 165, it's 61 millimeters shorter. So that's going to make it better in the deep snow, move through the snow better. You also get a thinner tunnel, but the same rigidity and same strength. So it goes from 1.8 millimeters to down to 1.6, and that's in the cross members, which is this piece right here, and the whole tunnel, which lightens up the sled quite a bit. And also, the heat exchanger now does not go fully to the back of the tunnel. On the 154, it's roughly 9.4 inches less heat exchanger, and on the 165, it's almost 14 inches less heat exchanger. So this is going to do a bunch of things. You're still going to get the same cooling capabilities, but you're going to get less ice buildup. And what we've done is, some manufacturers in other brands, they only go to the front of the tunnel, but what happens there is you can't put snow on the back. And as you know, if you've ever gotten your sled hot, putting snow here really makes a difference. So the heat exchanger still comes out enough that you can put snow on, and of course running your scratchers. And if you're running a full groom trail, you want to make sure you run that accessory snow flap, and that'll ensure that that your sled stays nice and cool as you go. Now, one of the biggest changes as we're going to look at for 2026 right here is Arctic Cat Guy.
Cat on top,
Shouldn't you be at work? Of course, the Arctic Cat Guy, always coming in, checking out the Skidoos. We're going to try and see if we can make Graham the switch this year. He really loves that 146 Free Ride turbo. Nadine, you did a good job. You let him ride your sled. Now he wants it. Not just because you're riding it, but he really thought it was one of his favorite sleds he's ever ridden. So now we don't have torsions on this skid. It goes to a coil-over suspension, and it takes 2 pounds out of the skid. Now, I will tell you, every press guy or woman that we had ride this sled, this was their favorite sled, because this thing now just pops out of the snow. It's so light. The overall in the 154 version, if you get that ultralight Powder Max track, which you can only get in the 154, you lose 14 pounds. So think about that when you accelerate this sled, whether it's naturally aspirated or a turbo, it just pops out of the snow so easy and just is super playful. That's why the Summit X is my favorite sled. It's the easiest sled to ride. It does everything. I have no problem side hilling this where an expert would go. It does still have T-motion. It does not now have a limiter strap. And for those of you, I hardly ever use my limiter strap. It's still on the Expert for someone looking for that really precise movement, but it's a way of limiting weight and making this sled super lightweight. So that's a little bit about the Summit X, and I think you're gonna love it. Another couple of things we've noticed too is a new scratcher hookup. There are a few areas also they've lightened up with the S module and a few other nooks and crannies, and those crazy engineers are always trying to get a lot of the weight out. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk right over here, and we're gonna move to the Expert. So they look the same when they're standing still. And as we were talking earlier, when you stand on this sled, it is really hard to tell, but the Summit X with Expert package now gets a 32, that's right, 32 front end. And I know everybody's thinking that thing's gonna tip over, but you might remember only a few years ago when we went to a 34 front end, when you first rode it, it was hard to tell that it was a 34. It felt like a 36 because the stability and the geometry that they did makes the sled better. And it is in the case with this 32 front end. Now, you have to know a few things when you come up here. Everything up front has been redesigned. So different shocks, your A-arms are shorter, your tie rods, as well as if you'll notice right here in the spindle, this cannot be changed. You're running 32 all the time. They've gone edge to edge with the spindle, and then they have a twin connect for your steering. Now, why they did this was when you go narrow, one of the biggest key factors is they wanted to feel connected. So by eliminating any movement in here, and then through the spindle, and then through the steering, up to your steering post, there's like no slop. So you get that very precise feel, and that is super, super important. Now, one thing that's really interesting as well is you almost get 30% more pressure on your outside ski for when you're side hilling. So the days are almost over where you're over on one foot now. Literally, when you lean this sled, you're side hilling. And what that does is it makes it easier for you to do, so you can go steeper. And also, because if you think about a wide sled, when you side hill, that sled's got to go up like this. So you actually lose traction on the back of the track. When you narrow it up and you come over, there's more track on the snow. So there you get improved traction by going to this 32 front end as well. So really cool. And with the twin connect steering, you actually save 52% less bump steer. And people wonder what that is. Bump steer is like when you hit something and it changes your direction, moves the skis. It actually will be more precise through those old tracks using less energy, and that's really, really important, especially when we're talking about the Summit X with Expert package. It also gets the shorter tunnel and the shorter heat exchange. But the back end or the underneath of it remains the same with torsions and that more rigid skid without T-Motion, or T-Motion XT we call it. And then of course you've got upgrades with your suspension that make everything stiffer. So this is for the really aggressive rider that wants a rigid skid, stiffness, wants that narrow front end now to be even more precise than before. And this is just going to be a magical sled for other people. So hopefully that tells you a little bit about both these sleds. And you can come down at No Limits and check them out here in Squamish. We will be going on tour. These go into the interior after that. And we'll be going through to Alberta. Down in the west we have sleds right now. So if you can get out, call your dealer, come check them out, and we'll see you out on the snow.